Part 1. When you feel that everything no longer fits you, you have probably asked yourself many times why it feels like you are living someone else's life. Inside, there is a thin, invisible layer separating you from that used to feel familiar. It is like wearing a jacket that once fit you perfectly. Today, it is not too tight, but you start to feel like you cannot breathe. Not because the jacket is bad, but because you have outgrown it. Many people call this feeling a midlife crisis. Some think it is mild depression. But for those stepping into an awakening journey, this feeling carries a deeper meaning. This is when a chapter in your soul's journey is closing. You begin to lose interest in conversations that used to excite you. You start feeling irritated by things you once easily accepted. You feel heavy in environments that used to feel normal. And what confuses you the most is that you cannot point to a clear reason. No one has wronged you. There is no villain, no guilty party, just a very real feeling. I no longer belong to this rhythm of life. Many people try to push this feeling away. They tell themselves, maybe I am weak. I may be overthinking. Maybe I am not grateful enough. And then they try to be stronger, to fit in more, to endure better. But the more they try, the more exhausted they feel inside. It is like forcing yourself to keep watching a movie that has already ended. The screen is still on. The characters are still there. But the story finished long ago, and you are still sitting there waiting for a scene that will never come. This is when many people begin to blame themselves. They think something is wrong with them. They think they are not patient enough, not trying hard enough, not mature enough. But there is another perspective, a perspective of the awakened soul. And if you allow yourself to look through it, everything begins to make much more sense. From this perspective, you are not failing at life. You are completing a cycle. When your soul has learned what it needed to learn in a certain phase, it begins to withdraw its energy from that context to prepare you for a new level. And the paradox is that when a soul cycle ends, the outer world may look the same, but your inner world has changed. That is why you can be in a stable situation and still feel empty inside. Not because you are ungrateful, but because your soul has outgrown that space. Like a child who no longer plays with an old toy, not because the toy is broken, but because the child's mind has moved to a new stage. If you are listening to these words and feel that they touch you, understand one very important thing. You are not lost, you are being called into a new chapter. In the next parts, we will go deeper into what is truly happening behind this feeling. Not through fear, but through understanding. Not through self-blame, but through the maturation of your soul. Because sometimes emptiness is not a sign of loss, it is space being prepared for a new destiny. Part 2. You did not arrive here by accident. There is a question very few people dare to ask themselves seriously. If my life is not random, then what am I really here for? We are taught that where you are born is chance, your family is fate, the people you meet are coincidence, and events that happen are luck or bad luck. But when you start seeing life from the soul's level, a very different picture gradually emerges. It is not a rigid script, not a destiny written down in every detail, but a deep intention, a direction that your soul chose before you had a name, a body, or a personal history. Like enrolling in a long-term program, you do not know every single test in advance, but you know the main theme of the course. Life works the same way. Not every detail is predetermined, but the soul's learning theme is. Some people come to learn about boundaries. Some come to learn about self-love. Some come to learn about forgiveness. Some come to learn about releasing control. Some come to learn about their own value. And to learn these things, the soul does not choose the easiest path. It chooses the most effective one. If you are here to learn boundaries, you will meet people who cross them. If you are here to learn self-love, you will have put others before yourself. If you are here to learn self-worth, you will have been in environments that made you doubt yourself. Not because you are unlucky, but because this is your classroom. And when you look back at your life from this angle, something fascinating begins to happen. Mistakes start to take the shape of lessons. Painful relationships begin to carry meaning. Exhausting periods start to make sense. You no longer only see what happened to you, you begin to see that you were placed in the right context to grow. You may have thought that if you had chosen differently, your life would be different. Maybe, but maybe your soul chose that path because it was the one that forced you to grow. Like a martial artist, no one becomes strong by always training with weak opponents. To grow stronger, you must face someone who makes your hands tremble. The soul is the same. It did not come here to be gently petted all its life. It came to awaken the true strength within you. And this is a very important moment in the awakening journey when you realize you are not just a victim of circumstances, but a student in a vast classroom called Earth. In that moment, you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What part of me is this shaping?" That question does not erase the pain immediately, but it prevents you from being crushed by it. You no longer lie beneath your life story, you stand up and observe it as a chapter in your learning, like rereading an old book. In the past, you saw it only as tragedy. Today, you see it as a turning point, not because the story changed, but because the reader changed. If you are here listening to these words, perhaps your soul is beginning to remember something. I did not come here just to survive. I came here to grow. It is not by chance that you chose to watch this video, very likely. This too is part of your soul's growth journey that you selected in advance. And this leads us to another truth that may be even harder to accept. Not everyone in your life comes to stay. Some come to teach, some come to activate, some come to challenge. And when their role is complete, their leaving is not a loss. It is a sign that the process has finished. In the next part, we will go deeper into this. Why do some relationships that were once deep gradually become distant? Not because anyone became bad, but because the lesson was completed. This is when you begin to understand that letting go is not betrayal. Sometimes letting go is the clearest sign of soul maturity. Part 3. Some relationships come to awaken, not to stay. We are taught how to attach, but almost no one teaches us how to let go at the right time. From childhood, we are raised with a beautiful story. Family is forever. Friends are forever. And at the human emotional level, everyone wants stability, everyone wants something to hold on to. But at the level of the soul, not every connection is meant to last. Some connections are created to activate old pain, to activate unhealed wounds, to activate parts of your ego you have never faced, to activate strength you have never used. Have you ever met someone who completely changed how you see yourself? Not because they were good or bad, but because around them you could no longer live the same way. They touched depths others could not reach. They made you happier, and sometimes they hurt you more. But most of all, they woke you up like an alarm bell. It does not come to soothe you back to sleep. It comes to wake you up, whether you like it or not. That is why the most impactful relationships in life are rarely the most peaceful ones. They are the relationships that make you question yourself, make you doubt, make you confront, force you to look at how you love, how you give, how you endure, and how you assess your own worth. Many of us cling to such connections not because they are still aligned, but because they have become part of our identity. You are not just attached to the person, you are attached to your role in that relationship. The one who endures, the one who sacrifices, the one who always tries to understand, the one who always gives in, the one who constantly holds the peace together. Over time, that role becomes so familiar that if you let it go, you no longer know who you are. This is one of the deepest reasons people fear endings, not only because they lose the other person, but because they lose an old version of themselves. Like an actor who has played a role for too long. When the play ends, he not only loses the stage, he temporarily loses his identity. And so, many people hold on to relationships that have already completed their purpose. Not out of love, but because they do not know who they would be without them. But at the soul level, when a relationship has fulfilled its awakening function, the energy begins to shift. You are still there, the other person is still there, But something very subtle starts to change. The resonance is no longer the same, not because anyone did anything wrong, but because the energetic roles have shifted. It is like two people climbing a mountain together until a fork in the road, where each must go a different direction, not because they hate each other, but because their paths no longer align. This is where many people begin to torment themselves. They think, maybe I am selfish, maybe I have changed, maybe I am not the same anymore. Yes, you have changed, but change is not betrayal. Change is a sign of life. A river does not betray its source by flowing to the sea. It is simply continuing its journey. And perhaps the most painful part is not the ending itself, but when you clearly feel that a connection has changed and you still act as if it has not. You repeat old words, old habits, old rhythms, like trying to maintain a heartbeat that has already shifted while the body no longer follows. In the next part, we will touch a very difficult moment, when your soul knows a chapter has ended, but your mind still clings. That is when you begin to feel empty, tired, and out of sync, not because you are weak, but because the fuel of the old cycle has run out. Part 4. When the fuel of the soul begins to run out, there is a strange state many people experience, but few truly understand. You are not as angry as before, and you are not extremely sad either, but you feel empty. Not empty because there is nothing, but empty in a way where everything is still there, yet nothing nourishes you anymore. You go to work but no longer feel present. You meet familiar people but no longer feel truly there. You participate in activities that once excited you, but inside there is only a quiet question. Why am I doing this? This is not laziness. This is not ingratitude. And sometimes this is not even depression. This is when the soul fuel of a cycle has run out. Imagine you are on a train. The train is still moving. The tracks are still there. But the fuel prepared for this journey was only enough to get you this far. When the fuel runs out, the train does not stop immediately. It keeps moving on momentum. On the surface, everything continues, but internally, the real energy has withdrawn. That is why you may still look fine to others, yet feel deeply exhausted, not physically tired, but tired in your motivation to live. Tired in meaning, tired in feeling like you are in the right place at the right rhythm. What makes this stage most painful is that people cannot point to a specific reason. There is no major event to blame, no clear person to resent, just a vague feeling that you are spending your energy on a reality that no longer nourishes your soul. It is like continuing to water a tree that has completed its life cycle. You water more, care more, but the soil no longer absorbs it, the roots no longer take it in. Not because you are watering wrong, but because the tree's cycle has ended at the soul level. When a phase has given you everything it could, energy from the deeper level begins to withdraw, not to abandon you, but to prevent you from staying in a place that no longer supports your growth. But the human mind hates ambiguity. It wants reasons, clear answers. So many people misinterpret what is happening. They think they are lazy, weak, and not trying hard enough. They push themselves, force themselves to feel excited again, to love again like before, to care again like before, forcing themselves to keep running in a race their soul left long ago. This is when exhaustion changes in quality. It is no longer tiredness from doing too much, but tiredness from doing things that no longer match your current frequency. Like wearing shoes that once fit. At first, they just pinch. Then your feet start to hurt, and eventually every step becomes resistance. Not because you forgot how to walk, but because the shoes no longer belong to you. Some people prolong this stage for a very long time. They stay in jobs that have lost meaning, in relationships that have lost connection, in environments that no longer reflect who they are now. And the price they pay is not only emotional, it is their life energy. They feel drained without knowing why. They lose motivation even for things that once made them feel alive. They start doubting themselves, while in truth, nothing is wrong with them. They are simply trying to maintain a reality in which their soul is no longer investing energy. In the next part, we will touch on a very subtle but very clear phenomenon. When two frequencies are no longer compatible, the connection begins to dissolve naturally, not through conflict, but through a feeling of no longer resonating. This is when you start to feel out of sync with people, with work, with your surroundings, not because anyone is wrong, but because the cycle has changed. Part 5. When frequencies no longer match, there is a very strange moment that many people experience but rarely dare to speak about. You sit next to someone you were once very close to. You hear them say familiar things. The voice is the same, the face is the same. The stories are nothing new, yet inside you, nothing is touched. It is not that you are angry, not that you hate them. It is just that you no longer vibrate with it. Like placing your hand on a speaker that has stopped playing music, the form is still there, but the vibration is gone. This is the phenomenon many awakened people call frequency mismatch. Not that one person is higher or better than the other, but that two streams of energy no longer move in the same rhythm. You can still be in the same room, still do the same things, still laugh at the same jokes, but your soul is no longer there. What makes this stage painful is not losing the person. What makes it painful is the presence in form but the absence in spirit. You begin to feel like you are talking to a shadow of the past. Not because the other person changed so much, but because you changed at a level they no longer travel with. Like two people who once studied in the same class. Years later, each goes in a different direction. When they meet again, they are polite, friendly, but nothing connects deeply anymore. No conflict, no clear tragedy, just an indescribable emptiness. Many people in this stage start doubting themselves. They wonder, am I cold? Am I heartless? Have I changed too much? But the truth is, you are not cold. You are not heartless. You simply no longer resonate. And when resonance is gone, the mind tries to hold on, while the soul has already let go long ago. This is where what I call the ghost effect appears. The person is still there. The relationship is still there. The job is still there. The environment is still there, but the life of the connection has left. Like a house still full of furniture, but the owner has moved out. You can sit in the living room, open the fridge, turn on the lights, but you know clearly this is no longer a living place. The greatest pain of this stage is that you do not have a good enough reason to leave, only a hard truth you cannot easily put into words. We are no longer on the same frequency, and because there is no clear reason, you begin to convince yourself to stay. You say, maybe I should try more. Maybe this is just a phase. Maybe I need more patience. But the more you try, the more exhausted you feel inside, exhausted from pretending to resonate when your signal has already turned off, like trying to tune into a radio station that no longer broadcasts. You twist the knob, you adjust, you change the antenna, but there is no music, only static. At the soul level, when the lesson between two people is complete, the energetic glue that once held them together begins to dissolve. The attraction decreases, the necessity decreases, the drive to maintain decreases, not from lack of effort, but because the function of the connection is finished. And this is where many people experience a very particular sadness. Not sadness from loss, but sadness from a loss you cannot name. You do not cry dramatically, you are not in pain, you just feel a quiet emptiness where life once was. There is a very important truth the awakened soul must remember. When frequencies no longer meet, staying is not loyalty, staying is self-depletion. Not all connections can be held by willpower. Some only exist through resonance. When resonance is gone, willpower only exhausts you. In the next part, we will touch on something difficult to accept but also liberating. When you refuse to let go through awareness, life will begin to help you let go through events, frictions, obstacles, strange coincidences, not to make you suffer, but to push you out of a place your soul already left. Part 6. When life begins to push you away, there is a very special phase in every person's journey. It is when you are not yet brave enough to leave on your own. But life has already started opening the door behind you, not with words, but with events. Small frictions appear constantly. Familiar plans suddenly fail. Things that used to flow smoothly start stumbling not just once, but again and again. At first, you think it is just bad luck, an unlucky day, a rough week, a dark period. But if you look closely, you will see a pattern. Not everything in your life is falling apart, only certain very specific areas. A relationship full of misunderstandings, a job with constant problems, an environment that keeps pulling you in and pushing you out, unstable, as if an invisible force is whispering, "This path is no longer for you." At the soul level, when you do not listen through feeling, life speaks through circumstances not to punish you, but to protect your progression. Like when you drive in the wrong direction for too long. The GPS does not just say, "Turn left" once. It repeats, reroutes, and increases the volume until you have to notice. Awakened people often recognize this through strange coincidences. You think about leaving, and that same day, something happens that makes it impossible to continue as before. You think about change, and suddenly everything in the old place becomes unreasonably difficult. Not random, but the intersection between inner intention and external signal. This is the outer world mirroring inner need not to pressure you, but to align you with your new direction. Many people in this stage get angry at life. They say, "Why is everything going wrong lately? Why do small things become big problems? Why is everything so hard?" But few pause to ask whether they are trying to stay in a place where their soul is no longer present. At a deeper level, life does not want you stuck. It wants you to move. And when you do not move by choice, you move by circumstance. Not because you are forced, because you are being guided. Like a river, if you cling to a rock in the middle of the current, the water will not stop for you. It will flow stronger, not to hurt you, but to make you let go. Some people only let go when things become difficult enough. Not because they are weak, but because the human mind needs proof. And life provides that proof through closed doors, broken plans, repeated frictions, not to crush you, but to end a path your soul left long ago. In this stage, many feel like they are being pushed out of a group, a job, a role, an old version of themselves. And what is frightening is not the push itself, but the emptiness ahead. The mind is used to the old, even if it hurts, but the soul is different. The soul is not afraid of emptiness. The soul knows emptiness is where a new chapter begins to form. In the next part, we will enter the greatest climax of the story. The moment when, if you still cling to the old structure, life will not just push, it will shatter it. Not to destroy you, but to free you from a house you stayed in too long. Part 7. When the tower collapses, you were warned, you were pushed, you were alerted through feelings, friction, and exhaustion. But if you still cling to the old structure, life stops whispering. It speaks through collapse, not piece by piece, but the entire system. A relationship ends suddenly, a job disappears faster than you prepared for, and an event makes it impossible to return to the past. In that moment, the first feeling is rarely awakening. It is shock, disorientation, injustice, fear. You may ask in tears, "Why now? Why this way? What did I do wrong?" But at a deeper level, the real question is not why the tower fell, but why you were still inside a tower your soul left long ago. Some structures in life cannot be dismantled brick by brick, cannot be gently adjusted. They must collapse completely so you have no path back. Because if even a small door remains, your mind will crawl back in. Like a rotten house, if you keep patching it, you will keep living on a decaying foundation. Sometimes, the only way to save you is to make that house unlivable. This is the stage many call the dark night, not only because of pain, but because all your old anchors disappear at once. You do not just lose a person, you lose your identity in that relationship. You do not just lose a job, you lose your role, your status, your sense of safety. You do not just lose a plan, you lose the future you believed in. And the deepest pain is not loss itself, but the question, if all this is gone, who am I? This is where soul and ego separate clearly. The ego panics, wants to rebuild quickly, and wants something to cling to immediately. But the soul is different. The soul does not rush to rebuild. The soul wants emptiness, not to punish you, but to clear the foundation. Like demolishing an old building, you cannot build anew on the same foundation. You must remove the debris, clean the ground, and accept a period where there is only emptiness. In this stage, many try to appear strong. They rush into new relationships, find new jobs quickly, fill their schedule with activity, not because they are ready, but because they fear having nothing to hold on to. But if you fill the space too soon, you will carry the rubble of the old tower into the new house and live in a structure built from broken pieces. The tower's collapse is like emergency surgery. No one likes surgery, but if a tumor is not removed, the whole body continues to be poisoned. The tower did not fall to destroy you. It fell to remove a way of living that no longer fits who you are becoming. And there is something few people tell you. After the tower falls, the hardest part is not the noise of destruction, it is the silence afterward. No more packed schedule, no more old roles, no more familiar people, no more familiar rhythm. Just you and a vast emptiness. In the next part, we enter a stage many misunderstand, the stage of emptiness and isolation. This is like a gestation phase, where a new version of you begins to form in silence. Part 8. Emptiness and the chrysalis. After everything collapses, the first thing is not a brilliant new beginning. The first thing is silence, a different kind of silence. Not peaceful, but so quiet you do not know what to do with yourself. Your phone vibrates less, familiar invitations disappear, and the roles that once defined you are no longer called upon. And in that emptiness, a question becomes very clear. If I am no longer my old roles, who am I? This is the stage many fear most. You officially have nothing to cling to, no relationships to define you, no job to prove your value, no busy schedule to avoid yourself, only you and a vast, unfamiliar space. At the soul level, this emptiness is not random. It is a chrysalis, not the death of the caterpillar, but the workshop of the butterfly. From the outside, everything looks still, unmoving, and there is no clear progress. But inside, an entirely new structure is forming. Old beliefs are dissolving, old roles are shedding, old reflexes are being removed. No loud noise, no announcement, no applause, only a very silent process. You are being restructured. Many panic here. They think they are falling behind while everyone else is moving forward, that they are being left behind, but very likely you are not being left behind. You are being pulled out of the old current to prepare for a new one. Like updating an operating system, the computer must temporarily stop running. The screen goes dark, no response. Not because the machine is broken, because the system is being reinstalled at a deeper level. If you keep forcing it to run during installation, you could ruin the whole process. The soul is the same. Emptiness is not for you to rush to fill. It is for you to absorb. Absorb what you have been through, understand the lessons, release roles that no longer belong to you. If you jump too quickly into something new, you will bring the old structure into a new context and repeat the same story in a different form. This is why many people keep meeting the same types of people, same situations, same problems. Not because life is cruel, but because the integration stage was skipped. The chrysalis stage is not glamorous. It does not give you a sense of success or recognition, but it gives you something far more valuable: space to return to yourself. Here, you begin to hear your inner voice clearly, not society's voice, not expectations, not fear, but a small, honest voice. How do I truly want to live? Not to impress, not to be accepted, but to align with yourself. In this stage, many change quietly, sleeping more, being alone more, losing interest in noise, and no longer wanting to explain themselves much. Not because they are cold, but because they are recalibrating at a deep level. If you are in this stage, remember one important thing. Nothing is wrong with you. You are not falling behind. You are not abandoned. You are in a rebirth workshop. In that workshop, no one sees your progress, but that progress will determine the quality of your next chapter. In the next part, we enter a subtle but beautiful moment. When you no longer react like before, no longer get pulled by the same triggers, a sign of integration, not numbness, but completion. Part 9. When you are no longer triggered, there is a strange moment in the awakening journey when a cycle truly closes. That moment happens when something that once provoked you strongly no longer shakes you. A person who once kept you awake, a sentence that once made your blood boil, a situation that once made you feel insulted, they still exist. The person is still the same, the words are the same, but inside you, nothing is activated. Not because you pretend to be calm, not because you suppress emotion, but because that trigger has been removed. This is one of the clearest signs that the lesson has been integrated. When a lesson is unfinished, life keeps pressing the same button, same type of people, same type of situations, same emotions, not to torment you, but to test whether you have truly learned. When you have not learned, you react, get angry, get sad, try to fix others, explain, and prove. But when the lesson is complete, that reaction no longer has a reason to exist. Like when you have fully learned a language, you no longer get tense when someone speaks incorrectly. You do not need to correct them. You simply understand and move on. Many misunderstand this. They think they have become emotionless, cold, uncaring, but you are not cold. You are free. Free from having to prove, free from having to fix others, free from reacting to protect your ego. You do not need to win conversations, be understood at all costs, or make others change so you feel okay. When you are no longer triggered, you are no longer pulled back into old cycles. Before, one comment could pull you into hours of overthinking. One look could carry your emotions all day, and a message could ruin your evening. Now, they come and go, they do not stick, like clouds passing through the sky. The sky does not need to fight the clouds. Here, the soul truly begins to breathe, no longer hooked by old attachments, no longer paying emotional debt to situations that have ended. At this level, you realize a gentle but deep truth. Not everything needs to be solved. Some things just need to be outgrown, not by winning, but by no longer participating. Many people experience, for the first time, a very different kind of peace. Not peace because everything is perfect, but peace because you are no longer pulled into what no longer belongs to you. This peace can even make others uncomfortable. People used to, your reactions feel strange when you no longer react. People used to, your explanations feel unsettled when you are silent, not because you changed to hurt them, but because your energetic role has shifted. You are no longer the keeper of old dynamics, no longer carrying emotions for old systems. And something beautiful happens. When you are no longer triggered, life has no reason to keep you in old tests. Old situations appear less. Old types of people appear less. Old loops lose energy not because you are avoiding them, but because you have graduated from them. In the next part, we move into a gentle but clear shift. When you are no longer pulled by the old, new people begin to appear not through effort or searching, but through natural alignment. This is where the story enters a new chapter, a new soul family. Part 10, New Soul Family. After you are no longer pulled by old lessons, you begin to meet very different people, not because they are perfect, but because you do not have to tense up around them. You do not have to guess what to say, adjust your tone, or hide parts of yourself. You simply are you, and that is enough. These encounters are usually not loud, no fireworks, no dramatic destiny feeling, but there is a clear ease. Easy to talk, easy to be silent together, easy to be yourself. You might meet them in ordinary places, a cafe, a class, a random conversation, but the inner feeling is anything but ordinary. You may have never met them before, yet feel like you do not need to explain yourself too much. like two people who studied at the same school but forgot its name. This is what many call soul family, not in a mystical sense, but a very practical one. These are people who align with who you are now, not who you used to be. Before, many relationships came to teach boundaries, self-respect, letting go, heavy, full of friction and emotion. But these new connections are different. They do not come to test you, they come to walk with you. You do not need to prove your worth, understand them perfectly, or fix them. You simply share space, share thoughts, share rhythm. Like two people walking on the same road, no one dragging the other, no one waiting too long, no one rushing ahead. Each walks at their own pace, but the pace matches. At a deep level, this is a sign you have shifted your level of experience. Before, life brought people who triggered your wounds. Now, life brings people who reflect your growth. You laugh more, defend less, explain less, not because you are careless, but because there is no energetic danger. You do not need armor, shields, or preparation. Presence is enough. These people do not come to fill old emptiness. They come after the emptiness has been cleaned. If you still carry resentment, emotional dependency, or need to be rescued, these connections rarely appear, not because you are unworthy, but because the frequency does not match, like trying to receive FM on an AM radio. When you have integrated your lessons and stand firmly in yourself, these people appear naturally, not as a reward, but as a result. These connections are not dramatic, but they are steady. No drama to feel alive, no conflict to feel valued. Like a calm river, not roaring like a waterfall, but deep enough to swim in for a long time. In the next part, we move into something very practical and crucial: body and energy. Because when you shift at the soul level, your body must learn to live in a new rhythm where many begin to heal, but also misread their own signals. Part 11. When the body begins to speak. There is a truth few people are taught. The soul may understand quickly, but the body needs time to catch up. When you shift levels of awareness, leave old contracts, enter a new rhythm of life, the body does not instantly adapt, like changing time zones. Your mind may be excited about the trip, but your body needs days to adjust. During this adjustment, many signals appear: fatigue without reason, heaviness without heavy work, sleeping a lot but still not feeling rested, mental fog, and difficulty focusing. Many panic and think they are weak or sick, but this may not be an illness. It is recalibration. The body is learning a new way of operating, a new rhythm, a new energy distribution. Before, much of your energy was spent maintaining structures that had already ended. Chronic stress, emotional defense, underlying anxiety, and constantly bracing yourself in environments that no longer fit. These were like background programs in your computer, invisible but consuming resources. When you leave the old cycle, that background program turns off, which sounds good, but initially the system must reorganize all resources, like a city removing a polluting factory. The air becomes cleaner, but in the beginning, traffic, energy, and rhythm must be reorganized. Your body mirrors this. Some feel back pain, heavy shoulders, frequent colds, weak throat, not because the body betrays you, but because it is releasing long-held tension. The body stores what the mind forgot, what you swallowed, what you endured in silence, what you pushed through. When the old contract ends, the body no longer needs to hold them. The release is not always comfortable, like opening a long-closed room. Dust and smell rush out. For a moment, it looks messier, but that is cleaning. The danger is not being tired. The danger is treating fatigue as an enemy. When you resist your body's signals, you unknowingly force yourself to live by the old rhythm. But when you listen, rest truly, something beautiful happens. The body gradually recovers, sleep deepens, breathing lightens, presence returns. This is not laziness, this is resetting. No one builds a new house while workers are still exhausted from demolishing the old one. No field blooms immediately after deep plowing. The body needs time to move from survival mode to living mode. And when you allow this, you feel a different kind of energy, not rushed, not proving, but steady, deep, natural. In the final part, we close the whole journey with a beautiful perspective. Part 12, the soul's graduation. There is a different way to see everything you have just been through as a graduation ceremony without caps, without a stage, without applause. But at the soul level, one door has clearly closed and another has opened, even if you do not yet see everything behind it. Graduation does not mean life becomes easy. It means you no longer need to learn the same lesson in the same way. You no longer need relationships to teach you self-respect, circumstances to teach you boundaries, or loss to teach you your worth. Not because you are perfect, but because you have integrated enough to stop repeating. At this level, you walk through life as someone who knows where they stand. You no longer look at the past with bitterness. You see it with understanding. All of that brought me here. No more. Why did I have to suffer? Instead, because of that, I became who I am. Like someone finishing a brutal training course inside it, they only felt exhaustion. But stepping out, they realize their body is stronger, spirit steadier, endurance greater. The soul's graduation is not forgetting the past. It is no longer being controlled by it. You can remember without being pulled. You can retell without pain. And at this level, something beautiful begins. You no longer live to prove. You live in truth, true to your rhythm, needs, limits, dreams. No need to look like anyone else, keep up with anyone, or maintain an image. You step into life as someone who has stumbled, lost, suffered, and is still here. That is not weakness. It is evidence of inner strength. If you recognize yourself in this story, know this. You are not left behind. You are not broken. You are not late. You may have just completed a major stage that not everyone dares to finish. Life does not apologize, but it is giving you a real opportunity to live without old roles, to love without self-betrayal, to choose without fearing losing yourself. If there is one thing to carry forward, you did not lose anything, you completed it. You were not taken from, you were liberated. From now on, your steps are not reactions to the past, but conscious choices for the future. That is not only awakening, that is soul maturity, and it is just beginning. If you stayed with this story from start to finish, you likely realized something important. No part of your journey was meaningless. Relationships that came and went, jobs that once meant everything and then felt empty, periods of confusion and exhaustion. None of it was to break you. It was to make you wide enough to hold yourself. You did not just go through events, you went through a soul maturation cycle. From early signs of misalignment to being pushed out of old structures, from frightening emptiness to integration, peace, and new aligned connections. Each part was not lost. Each part was inner growth that many cannot see. If you are anywhere on this path, remember, no stage is wrong, no pace is slow, no emotion is invalid. From today, you can simply allow what has completed to be released, even if the mind still hesitates. Respect emptiness instead of rushing to fill it with noise. Listen to your body when it asks for rest. Observe your emotional triggers and celebrate when they no longer activate. Open to new connections not by searching, but by presence. Not to become better, but to live truer to who you are now. If there is one sentence to close this journey, you are not left behind. You are being guided to a new level of life. If this story touched you, leave a comment sharing which part of the journey you are in. You may be surprised by how many others walk beside you. And if you want to continue exploring stories of awakening, soul, and healing, follow the channel not to receive ready-made answers, but to learn to listen to answers within. We are not here to escape life. We are here to live it fully with deeper awareness. See you in the next chapter of the journey.